friends, welcome to our midweek moment. Pastor Nicole here. So glad you clicked on. Well, this week we continued on in our sermon series from Shepherd to King, the life of David. And we looked at the part of David's story from right after he defeats Goliath. And he finds himself kind of on the run from King Saul because Saul becomes very jealous of David and decides he wants to murder David. And if you have some spare time this week, read this story. It is wild. It covers kind of the end of 1 Samuel and the beginning of 2 Samuel. And in that stretch, we just see David kind of running all over the place. He's on the run for his life. He is afraid and certainly must have felt alone and scared. And so we see him kind of go all over the place. I showed a map about that in the sermon. And then at the end of where we stopped the sermon was he was anointed king of Israel. So we see him kind of go through this big transition, but he finally makes it to where God predicted he would be, right? King of all Israel. But today I want to spend a little time looking at Saul's story. Now I know we're looking at David's story in this series, but I feel like we often overlook Saul, or he gets kind of a bad rap. You know, when we read through the story of Saul, we see that he's pretty erratic and doesn't always make the best choices. He's certainly struggling with something, and some biblical scholars have suggested that he was having maybe some kind of mental health issues or mental health crisis, and maybe that contributed to his erratic behavior. But whatever's going on with Saul, one of the things I think we can really learn from him is the devastation of jealousy. Now, who hasn't been jealous, right? I mean, it is a common emotion for us to have jealousy, right? Or envy, and to kind of spend time being jealous of what other people have or what they've done or who they are, you know, those kind of things. But what we learn from Saul is that jealousy keeps us from being who we're meant to be. When Saul becomes so jealous of David, it kind of consumes his whole being. And it is kind of hard to watch, right? It's just like he is this strong and mighty king, and we just see him kind of crumble into the shell of a person because he cannot get out of his mind that he needs to get rid of David because he's jealous of David and what he has done and what he is doing. And I just kind of wonder what would have happened if Saul could have let that jealousy go, if he had kind of addressed that in himself and was able to move forward. What would that have looked like for Saul? Because what we see in his story is he is so consumed with jealousy that he misses opportunities to repent to God, you know, to say, God, I'm sorry that I went my own way instead of following after you. I'm sorry that I didn't listen to your voice, your wisdom, your leading. If he had kind of switched from jealousy to seeking God's forgiveness and seeking God's plan, you just kind of wonder like how the story might have been a little different. Like, would he have lived into his kingship for a long time? And then David eventually would have taken over. I mean, what would have happened if he and David had partnered up and become like this duo? You know, there's so many opportunities that are missed because Saul lives in this land of jealousy. And so what I think we can learn from Saul, this kind of cautionary tale of what are we missing when we live in the land of jealousy? What are we focusing on so intently in our jealousy that we are missing all of this goodness that's happening in our lives, all of these blessings from God that may not look like this person's blessings, but these are our blessings, right? And when we get jealous and we focus on what other people have or what they're doing or, you know, who they are, and we just kind of abandon what we have and who we are and what we are doing, what God has called us to do. And we miss all of this because we're so focused on wanting this. And the truth is that even if we get this, like if we are so focused and we get this, we're probably not going to be happy about it because it's not what we're supposed to have. We're supposed to have these blessings over here. So as we read through this story, this part of the story, I just think there is such wisdom in learning from Saul, from his mistakes, that instead of focusing on jealousy, if we can focus on our own blessings, our own strengths, our own gifts, where God has called us to be and who God has made us to be, instead of wishing that we were someone else or had something else, I think we'll find a lot more contentment. I think we will find a lot more joy. I think we will be a lot happier. So as we're moving through life, as you kind of see something, you're like, oh, I really wish I had that, or oh, I really wish I could do that. It's okay to have those feelings, but when we dwell in the land of jealousy and can't let it go, it really affects our lives in a negative way. So if we can just have those feelings, address them and say, I really wish I could have that. I realize that's not my situation, at least not right now, but I'm going to be content with what I have. I'm going to be content with who God created me to be and how he created me to be. And I'm going to live my best life with the blessings God has given me, rather than wishing that I had something else or I was someone else. I just think that gives us the opportunity to be more content with who we are and what we have and who God has created us to be, is leading us to be, wants us to be. So maybe learn from Saul this week that jealousy doesn't really work out usually. It's not usually a good thing. If we can let go of that and instead be who we are, enjoy what we have, I think we'll start to see God's blessings in ways that we haven't before. So, hope you have a great rest of your week. You don't want to miss this weekend. We're going to continue on in David's story and talk about his major misstep in his life, where he has an affair and all of the fallout that comes along with that. It is a messy story. So if you're in it for the drama, or if you're in it for wanting to learn from David's mistakes, we hope you'll join us for worship this weekend, in person or online. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Take care, and we'll see y'all soon.